Disclaimer. This video critiques specific teachings within Islamic tradition that are anti-Semitic. It is not an attack on Muslims as individuals. Many Muslims reject these views entirely. The goal is honest analysis, not hatred.
We have the truth on our side.
No, you do not have the truth on your side. The so-called Palestinian movement is built on distortion, manipulated language, euphemisms, historical revisionism, and in many cases, open support for terrorism and hate. It's one of the most ideologically corrupted movements in recent history.
But where we're behind is that these people, and we're talking about Zionists, let's be very careful. I have heard it done many times the wrong way.
You have heard people let it slip, meaning they forgot to use the euphemism, that you are really talking about Jews with Zionist as a less controversial cover. But most Jews are Zionists. What is Zionism? Zionism is the movement for the self-determination and statehood for the Jewish people in their ancestral homeland, the land of Israel. The vast majority of Jews around the world identify as Zionists, meaning they support the existence of Israel as a Jewish state in the historic land of Israel. So why do people try to separate Jews from Zionists? Because openly attacking Jews brings backlash, while attacking Zionists provides political cover. It's a linguistic sleight of hand to make antisemitism more acceptable. Of course, there are countless non-Jewish Zionists, but they are usually not the primary targets of hate and contempt. Martin Luther King is commonly attributed to have said, "When people criticize Zionists, they mean Jews. You're talking anti-Semitism." While the authenticity of the quote is disputed, the point usually stands. Anti-Zionism is usually an expression of anti-Jewish hate.
It is absolutely contradictory to Islamic teachings to be an anti-Semite. You cannot hate on Jewish people. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Contrary to Islamic teaching to be an anti-Semite? Is this some kind of joke? Are we seriously pretending that Islam prohibits hatred toward Jews? I don't know if he's lying or just completely ignorant, but either way, this claim is blatantly false. Islam is inherently anti-Semitic and hateful, as I will demonstrate using its most authoritative sources, not fringe interpretations, but core scripture and hadith. Quran 582 says, "You will surely find the most intense of the people in animosity toward the believers to be the Jews and those who associate others with Allah." So here, Jews are described as the most hostile people toward Muslims. But let's be honest, the reverse is far more accurate. In many Muslim societies, Jews are routinely demonized, slandered, and targeted. It is Muslims who have historically shown far more hatred toward Jews, not the other way around. Muslims have been among the most hostile, along with Christians, toward the true believers, that is, the Jews. Quran 5:51. O you who have believed, do not take the Jews and the Christians as allies. They are, in fact, allies of one another, and whoever is an ally to them among you, then indeed, he is one of them. Indeed, Allah guides not the wrongdoing people. Other translations say, do not take them as friends. Either way, the meaning is clear. Distance yourself from Jews and Christians. And there's no clarification saying, just in wartime or just in a specific situation. This is presented as a general rule. No amount of apologetics can salvage this. It's open bigotry. And then we get to Quran 98.6. Verily, those who disbelieve in the religion of Islam, the Quran, and Prophet Muhammad, from among the people of the Scripture, Jews and Christians, and al-mushrikun will abide in the fire of hell. They are the worst of creatures. So unless Jews and Christians convert to Islam, they are condemned to eternal punishment and called the worst of creatures. How is that not hateful and dehumanizing? And that's just the Quran. Let's look at the Hadith literature, which Muslims revere as the sayings and actions of Muhammad himself. Sahih Muslim 2167a. Do not greet the Jews and Christians before they greet you, and when you meet one of them on the road, force him to the narrowest part of it. So Muslims are told to withhold even basic courtesy and to disrespect Jews in public. Twist this however you like, but the anti-Jewish conclusion will remain. Sahih Muslim 2922. The last hour will not come unless the Muslims fight the Jews and kill them, until the Jews hide behind rocks and trees, and the rocks and trees will say, O Muslim, O servant of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. Except the Garkad tree, for it is the tree of the Jews. This is not a metaphor, it's a prophecy of mass slaughter. And guess what? This exact hadith was cited in the original Hamas charter, before they were ever elected. That means when the people of Gaza voted for Hamas, they voted for a group that explicitly endorsed this genocidal teaching. They voted for terrorism. They voted for genocide. That is the reality. How can anyone with a straight face claim that Islam is free from antisemitism? These are not obscure verses or fringe opinions. They are foundational. They are quoted in schools, preached in mosques, and used to justify hate and violence to this day. We will never have peace until radical Muslims abandon these vile beliefs. So no, antisemitism is not contrary to Islam. It is embedded in its core texts. Muslims may choose to ignore or reform these teachings, and I respect those who do. But don't lie and pretend they don't exist. And these are not even the only sources. There are even more I can list.
We don't say the Jews. We say the Zionist regime. Because why? Part of their propaganda is picturing this as a battle between Arabs and Jews, between Muslims and Jews, which it's not any of that. It is a fight for justice between the oppressive Zionist occupiers and the oppressed Palestinian who are Christian, they are Muslim, and they are atheist and humanist.
Right, because we all know there are plenty of atheists and humanists in Gaza. The Cultural Atlas writes, the majority of Palestinians are Muslim, including those living overseas. All residents in the Palestinian territories are required to declare a religion on an identification card issued by the Israeli government. According to this record, 98% of Palestinians identify as Sunni Muslims. Christianity is the main minority religion, with roughly 52,000 Palestinian Christians believed to be living across the occupied territories as of 2013. It is believed the numbers of religiously unaffiliated Palestinians, i.e. atheist or agnostic, in the West Bank and Gaza are very low. What he's trying to do is rally atheists and humanists to his cause by portraying Israel as an oppressor of Gazans as a whole, including the mythical atheist and humanist population. To do that, he's willing to invent an imaginary group of Palestinian atheists who supposedly suffer under Israel, a group that in practical terms barely exists. Meanwhile, he accuses others of spreading propaganda. But let's ask an honest question. What happens if an atheist publicly denounces Islam in Gaza? Do you really believe they'd be safe? That they'd be protected? That they'd have freedom of speech or conscience? Of course not. Publicly declaring that Allah does not exist in Gaza would be suicidal, not metaphorically, but literally. So if you're an atheist supporting Gaza without qualification, you're siding with a population and governing body that would strip you of the very freedoms you claim to value. Freedom of thought, belief, and expression.
And they are all equally Palestinian, and they are all being oppressed and abused and humiliated and have been going through that for 74 years.
The oppression narrative is a distortion of reality. Before October 7th, countless videos showed daily life in Gaza, markets bustling, beachfront cafes full, shopping malls operating, and people free to travel internally. Yes, there were restrictions, but those were security measures aimed at preventing terrorist attacks, not acts of oppression. It's disingenuous to conflate counterterrorism with colonialism. Meanwhile, for 1,400 years, it has been radical Islamic ideologies that have fueled widespread oppression, not just of Jews and Christians, but of Muslims who dissent. That ideology has left a trail of violence, fear, and suppression, from medieval empires to modern jihadist groups. If you genuinely want peace, then the solution isn't to destroy Israel. It's to end the ideology that glorifies martyrdom, antisemitism, and religious totalitarianism. Without confronting and ending radical Islamism, peace will remain impossible.
A fight for justice between the oppressive Zionist occupiers and the oppressed Palestinian
Occupiers? Let's just focus on Gaza for a moment. Israel completely withdrew from Gaza in 2005, dismantled all settlements, pulled out every soldier. Not a single Israeli remains inside Gaza. So the idea that Gaza is occupied is a little absurd. Now, is there a blockade? Yes. And for good reason. Gaza is controlled by terrorists. After the withdrawal, the people of Gaza elected Hamas, a terrorist organization that openly calls for the destruction of Israel and the murder of Jews. That was around 20 years ago, and Hamas has ruled ever since, with violence, Islamic fundamentalism, and hate-driven propaganda as its governing principles. Gazans voted for terror, and terror is exactly what they got. We are constantly told to feel sympathy for the noble Palestinian people, yet these same people who voted for a regime committed to genocide, they raised that regime to power. They celebrated its victories. And yes, polls consistently show that a majority of Palestinians supported the October 7th massacre, an unprovoked, barbaric attack on civilians. Let's be clear, of course there are some decent individuals in Gaza, but if they are the majority, where are they? Where were they when Hamas launched its attack? Where were they when innocent people, children, women, the elderly, were dragged into Gaza as hostages? Where were they when Israel offered huge monetary rewards to anyone who helped secure their release? Not one hostage was freed by an ordinary Palestinian. Not one. In fact, reports show that many aided Hamas, helped hide captives, or simply stood by and did nothing. The brutal truth is that Gaza is not simply suffering under Hamas, it is a society shaped by Hamas. Years of indoctrination, glorification of martyrdom, and religious hatred have morally corrupted a population to the point where atrocities are not just tolerated, they are celebrated. Some people find it hard to accept that virtually an entire population can become this twisted. But that's the reality we're dealing with. So no, Gaza is not occupied. It is self-governed by terrorists and supported by a society that empowers them. And yet somehow, the world expects Israel not only to show restraint, but to provide aid to those who cheer for its destruction. But all this is coming to an end. Hamas will be wiped out and so will Islamic radicalism. We must all do our part in this mission. Educate yourselves and others about these truths. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, share, and become a channel member. Thanks and be well.